first, my gut instincts tells me I would prefer one in each of the four. Uh, Option two, that would be my preference. One in each of the four. One in Ashland, San Lorenzo, Castro Valley, and Cherryland. That would be my instinctual direction, without having checked in with the community stakeholders, not even my staff on this particular matter. So this is the first I'm seeing it. And I don't know if that's what staff is thinking about in terms of your preference.
Yes, as I mentioned, our point of reference in all the work that we do in planning is in those four areas, including Fairview. But again, Fairview sort of off the table. And yes, I mean that definitely is the staff favorite in terms of the two options.
Yeah, and I'm not I know there are concerns associated with retail operations, but I do know our two retail outlets, the dispensaries, have operated in good standing. They've complied with the regulatory requirements that the Sheriff's Department, CDA, Public Health have imposed on them over the last decade or so. And if they were by right allowed, then and we're looking at a net gain in the unincorporated urban part of the community, actually a net gain of one, because we do allow three now, but one isn't permit wasn't issued. So we're looking at a net gain of one, but we have two operating now. So under this new proposal, we'd have the ability to have an additional two. So if the two that are existing are there by right, then the other two that could come in would have to locate, one would have to locate in Castro Valley, and one would have to locate in San Lorenzo.
That's correct.
And once again, they go through the RFP process to get the ability to say the county's going to issue you a dispensary permit. But once again, they don't have the right to operate until they go through a CUP process and the site has been approved. And that goes through a community process as well. So I could get a permit and I can get a site in San Lorenzo, and I could be denied ultimately my ability to open up because I couldn't get through the CUP process. But all that's part of a fair, due process, public hearing.
The Alameda County Sheriff's Office has some statements they'd like to make at this point, and we have Commander Miles here.
Thank you, Mr. Littlejohn. Supervisors, Sheriff's Office just wanted to get on the record with our strong opposition and some of the things we don't support in this change in the ordinance. One of the first ones being increasing the amount of dispensaries in the county. We think the county is good at the 3 permits that are out there now. Been to some of the community meetings, and I haven't seen an overwhelming support for more. I've seen it kind of split down the middle. And as you just pointed out, Supervisor Miley, there's our neighboring jurisdictions, there's only 1 dispensary. I don't see why the unincorporated area has to carry the burden of supplying medical cannabis to all these other cities if everybody put in their fair share. As far as cultivation, one of the biggest concerns with the cultivation, Supervisor Haggie just pointed it out especially out in the East County, rural areas. Security is a big issue out there. You know what our staffing is out there, even though we doubled it. If there was some heavy security issues out there, which there very well could be, having been in this business for 33 years and worked a lot of years in narcotics and dealing with narcotic robberies, things like that. Something like that happens out there where they've got a substantial amount of marijuana. It's not just going to be a guy that's like walking into a mom and pop liquor store to rob them. It's going to be a coordinated assault with several individuals and probably some high-powered weapons. We don't have the staff out there to adequately respond to that. They'd get there, but they'd be really in harm's way, as would the employees of that business. So that's a concern to us. Deliveries, Those are also a concern that we're against, allowing them to bring drugs right into the neighborhoods. Pizza delivery guys get ripped off. We don't have no way of knowing how much, because it hasn't been set up yet, if it will be, as far as how much they can bring around, how much product they can have with them. But they'd be a very tempting target for somebody to rob. And they'd be right in neighborhoods where families are, kids are, people that could be in harm's way. The other issue we have is with the unlimited amount of cannabis in dispensaries. I know we've discussed this before, but you allow them to not have an overwhelming amount there. You're going to, or as much as they want to have, that's really going to make them targets to be robbed. I mean, we had it set at 20 pounds. You know, maybe it could be negotiated a little bit, but I think there needs to be a limit, not to exceed, you know, much more than that, because it just makes them too much of a target to be robbed. And then on our last thing we oppose are the edibles. We talked about that early on. There are a lot of issues with that. You know, I know health department, I know, do their best to try to do their part of it, but how can you know, ensuring quality, potency, and as you brought up just as recently as 2 months ago, San Francisco, where they had some people, some of them children, sickened at a party because somebody brought some edibles that looked like candy, and most of these do end up looking like candy. I mean, we want them to have the proper markings and packagings to not resemble candy, but they're going to get out of that packaging at some point, and it could have some dire consequences for some people. So as far as those things, and we do have a problem with them, and we don't support any of the or we oppose those changes that have been submitted respectfully by our group, because they've worked very hard. So wanted to get that on record.
Yeah, appreciate Sheriff's Department's concerns and responses. I didn't see those in the staff report. Can we get those concerns outlined? Because they weren't in the report. Because I think some of the concern, I mean, I appreciate the concerns that have been raised, and you know, I support the Sheriff's Department and public safety, but I do think the reason we're looking to expand the number is because I've said before, I think the county has the responsibility for safety net services, and the cities don't. The cities can let people basically go without their medicine, go without hospitalization, go without adequate services, social services. I think the county fundamentally, as an arm of the state, we have those obligations and responsibilities. So if every city in Alameda County were to ban medical cannabis, which they can do, we would still, I say, have the responsibility to provide outlets for people to receive this medicine and to regulate it and to ensure its quality, both in terms of the manufacturing, cultivation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the opposite end, if every city decides they want to open it up and allow for it, we still have an obligation to police and regulate and administer it based on the rules and regulations we establish ultimately when we come up with a countywide program. And maybe at that point, if every city were to consider doing this, maybe we wouldn't have to have let's say six retail operations. Maybe we could cut back on it. But right now, for a population of 1.5 million people, I think we are I think we're underserved. And I think the county should be stepping up to the table and utilizing our ability to provide this medicine to people, recognizing the concerns of law enforcement and the community about this product as a drug. And it is under California law, medical cannabis is a drug that can be utilized by patients and can be distributed and provided to patients and cultivated by parties at this point in time. The other piece is, I think I thought I heard with the delivery service, we were going to restrict the amount that a party could have on their possession when they're transporting it in unincorporated Alameda County.
That's correct. It would
Okay.
be limited to the amount actually requested for that delivery
Okay,
driver to
so
go out.
so it's not like I can drive into unincorporated Alameda County with an unlimited, with an unlimited amount of cannabis in my possession. If I do, and it goes beyond our threshold, then I'd be in violation. And what would be the penalty under our ordinance?
Well, a violation of our ordinance is considered a misdemeanor
Okay, at this point in time.
at this
Okay.
point.
Okay, all right, but that can be looked at if we want to increase that from a misdemeanor or even apply additional fines and to that. The other piece is, I think it's important too that we take a look at the sheriff's concerns, and that's why I want to get them in writing so that we could see both the legitimacy of those concerns as well as if they're concerns that can be, let's say, mitigated or responded to in a rational manner that would allow for the Sheriff's Department to be more comfortable with going forward with this. Because once again, I'm not trying to stifle anyone's opinions around this from the county agencies or entities or the general public, but I do feel strongly that this is something we should be undertaking. The final thing is, I would like to see if we can get information from other jurisdictions, not necessarily in the state, but we could look at within the state, but other jurisdictions that have medical cannabis full-fledged operations, Oregon, Colorado, other places, and see what their experience has been and see if there's any lessons learned or best practices. And I'm not talking about recreational use to this point, or adult use, I'm just talking about medical cannabis. And if there are best practices or experiences of other jurisdictions, even internally in the state of California. So we can kind of see whether or not we're going down a track that is not in the public interest and within the public good, or if we're going down a track that we do feel is in the public interest and public good, but we can do it in a manner that either we improve upon what's out there or we follow a direction that's out there that seems to be working appropriately. So I would like to see if we could charge our staff, Supervisor Haggerty, to do some additional research on medical cannabis operations within the state as well as outside of the state, to see if there's lessons learned and best practices that we might be able to utilize as we're crafting our journey around opening this up to both additional dispensaries as well as cultivation. That's additional kind of charge, and I don't know how long it would take them to do that, but I think it would be better if our staff's doing that as opposed to, I know I can get it from the advocates, I know I can get it from other people, but once again, it'll be one-sided. I want to get a balanced perspective from our staff on this.
Sure.
But were we told in a hearing that there's, I thought somebody had given us a statistic about the amount of deliveries that are already being done in the city of Livermore, for example? Did somebody give us that statistic?
Doesn't ring a bell. Like, doesn't sound like resonates here.
Or did somebody give us the amount of deliveries that are being done in the unincorporated area already?
I don't think we've had that.
Do you know
data.
how many deliveries are already being done?
We don't know that. At least I don't think the working group did not come out with that information.
Does anybody know? Huh? 50 delivery services. 3,000 what a day in Livermore? That's what I thought. So you told me. So there's about 3,000 deliveries a day in the city of Livermore right now. Okay, and I'll ask you later where you got that. Since you work for me, you know. Okay, I thought I'd heard that. I didn't want to say it, but I thought I'd heard. So the delivery's already happening, and then City of Hayward just approved 2 clinics? San Leandro just approved 2.